Okay, the last thing that we're going to look at for video number 5, our final video in this exciting series of sentence diagramming videos, subordinate conjunctions and subordinate clauses. Be very careful with these words, just like any other word we've been talking about, where one word can serve multiple grammatical functions. So I've put these two examples here. I hope that you can immediately see that the second example is your clause. You've got a subject and a verb. I made. The first example there, before noon, that's not a clause because there's no subject, there's no verb, right? It's just a phrase there. And it's called an adverbial phrase, not to be confused with what we've been calling an adverb phrase. Okay. What's going on with that? It tells us when something happened. Something happened before noon, right? And if we label it, we'll label it like this. What? Yes. So I hope you can see that noon is a noun. And what do we got right before a noun? Just like we discussed in our video on prepositional phrases, right? Prepositional phrases usually tell us when something happened, where something happened, how it happened, okay? So we have before noon. It could be at noon. If it was at noon, I think you could see immediately, you say at is a preposition, that's a preposition phrase, okay? But before noon, afternoon, right, is working the same way as at noon, okay, at 12 o'clock. That's a preposition phrase, right? We're interested in before when it's the head of a clause. So we want to look at this situation here when I have an entire subject verb clause after that word before, after, when, while, okay, because, if, although, even though, all of those subordinate conjunctions. So here, before is not a preposition, it's a so we will label as a subordinate conjunction. Very important that we make sure that we are differentiating our conjunctions and, but, or. The fanboys, if you learned fanboys, those are coordinate conjunctions. That's different, okay? This is a subordinate conjunction followed by the first person pronoun, I, verb, made. This is a demonstrative, which is a determiner. It's a kind of determiner. And then video is not a verb. What's going on, Mr. Aaron? There we go, that's better. Video is a noun, okay? Now we can ignore that subordinate conjunction right now and let's focus on all the stuff that comes after. I made this video. That looks suspiciously like a full, complete sentence, right? I made this video, period. That could be a sentence. So let's put all the pieces of that sentence together, pause the video right now and draw out that sentence, diagram that sentence. Okay, so I hope the first thing that you drew out was your noun phrases. The pronoun I is all by his lonesome self, okay, forever alone. Go ahead and put that in a noun phrase, and then the determiner and the noun following. Okay, so your subject and your object of that verb made are noun phrases. And now, which one of those goes with the verb phrase? The object always gets bundled up with the verb inside the verb phrase. So made this video all together becomes a verb phrase. And then we put the noun phrase and the verb phrase together. That's a sentence, right? I made this video. If we took out that word before, I made this video would be a full, complete sentence. A subject, verb, object, bam, boom, done. But we have this, we've added this subordinate conjunction onto the front of this sentence, and that changes its nature. So now that sentence becomes a subordinate clause, right? If you wrote this in your English class, your teacher probably underlined it in red ink or circled it and said fragment, okay? Because this is not a complete sentence when you have that subordinate conjunction. So that's a subordinate clause. It would need to connect to a main clause, and that's what you would have. So for example, if your main clause was I drank some coffee, you would diagram that main clause out separately. And then if we diagrammed out that sentence, you'd get your main clause. It would look something like this. They look very similar, right? So now your main clause and your subclause get put together in their final form. And that becomes your sentence. So there's our final sentence. We can just abbreviate S. Okay, and so that's how a sentence that has a subordinate clause should look. If you keep in mind, right, the sentence will break into that main clause and subclause, right? So if you have that in your mind, go ahead and kind of separate those two halves and diagram those separately until you get to the last two components where you can draw your final line and draw that S in there. I hope that's clear. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to email me. You can always request to meet with me one-on-one outside of class. Okay. Otherwise, good luck and have fun.